Jack, are you on with us?
Yes, I'm here, Trey. Thanks for
All
having me.
right. Well, Jack, thanks for jumping on the call. Let me stop the share here. All right. So, for those that don't know Jack, and hopefully I said it, how many times have you hit Hall of Fame, Jack? Do you know?
Uh, uh, uh yeah,
Oh, oh,
uh,
I know it's more than five.
yeah.
And his agency's he's done incredibly well on the agency building side. He's built a humongous team. He's somebody I really look up to a lot because he is successfully, Jack used to drive like 5,000 miles a week doing in-home appointments. I don't know, that's extreme, but 1,000 miles a week for sure. He'd be in Northern California, he'd be in Vegas, he'd be in San Diego, he'd be in Utah, like Fresno. Like he was always driving somewhere 4 days a week, one full day of driving. He'd leave at 3 a.m. He'd come home at midnight if he came home, and he consistently sold. There was a time in FFL where nobody really thought you could do 10,000 a week. And Jack was like one of the first people to actually embrace that and do that consistently. And so he did that in person, but then he also transitioned to being able to do that type of production on the phone. Um, and it's been interesting to watch your journey to do that. Like it's actually it's changed your life quite a bit. You're home more. You're happier, you're less stressed. You've done a great job with it. So um, for those that don't know Jack, just tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started with FFL, and then we'll jump into some of the nuts and bolts.
Cool. Thanks, Trey. You really make me feel good. If I never need a daily hug or an inspiration, I just call Trey up. Thank you. Well, uh, I look at some of the young people and the opportunity we have nowadays at FFL, and I'm just like, wow, it is spectacular. The scope of the opportunity, everything from the multiple types of leads, the real-time availability on the gateway, like you said, virtual has become a reality. Back in the day, we all used to drive around and do it. So I started insurance about I now it's coming on 16 years. I was out of a job and just looking to reinvent myself. And I was no spring chicken. I'm definitely old now. You asked me how many times I hit a Hall of Fame. It's either because I forgot, because I'm too old, or it's just too. I can't remember. I'm old. So, but it's exciting to be a part of it. But yeah, we used to scrounge around for leads, get whatever we could, and then you couldn't get them over here, so you had to go over there, and you couldn't get them over there, so you had to go over here. We just bounced around a lot. I started in insurance at another company, which will go unnamed, but it was challenging, and I spent a full year at another company, couldn't make any money, and I left. And I was like, yeah, that's enough of that. So I just left it, to chalked it up to experience, and I moved on. And a couple of years down the road, I had a job, but it didn't have much of a future, and I didn't see any long term in it. So I was looking again. And this is what back when we used to. Some of the young people don't even know what Monster.com. Remember Monster.com
Yeah.
and Craigslist? Yeah. So I was like, looking around, and I actually got a call from a recruiter saying, "Come in for a job interview." I was like, "Oh God, finally a job interview!" Yeah, I was like, 40 something years old looking for a job. So I got dressed up in my best three-piece suit and I went to this job interview, and it wasn't a job interview at all. It was like six people in a room, and they had party snappers and clappers and horns. Those New Year's things, those horns and stuff. And they were like blowing horns and doing clappers and like woohoo! I was like, "What's going on?" And I was supposed to interview with this guy named Andrew, and he showed up late. I was like, "Where's the guy I'm supposed to interview with?" So this guy walks in, he's wearing like a Miami Vice suit, and sunglasses, and he didn't, and I had to go up to him at the end and say hello. But somehow it all turned around. And there was this one guy, a really good friend of ours named Paul, and Paul came up to me and he said, "Nice tie, man. We need more guys like you." And that was all it took because I guess I was just that desperate, you know. So I stuck around. I was like, yeah, see, I got a nice tie. I didn't wear it for nothing. So I just stuck around, and I started realizing, hey, as young as these guys are, like Andrew Taylor was like 20, when I met him.
Yeah.
He started when he was 18. I was like, dude, they've got their heads on straight, working hard. So I was like, and I was listening to the numbers. I was like, even back then, the numbers were, I mean, look at your leaderboard. I was like, man, nothing like what it used to be. But I was like,
Right.
even back then, I was like, if I could do half of that, that would be able to replace my full time, job income. So I was like, I gotta give this a shot. So that's how I got started. And yeah, no looking back.
So when you were new, I mean, what were three or four of the big hurdles and how'd you overcome them?
Oh yeah. Well, I think for many people, the hardest part is like putting yourself, because every life insurance company is going to say, hey, this is entrepreneurial. You're going to have uncapped earning potential and freedom of schedule. And sometimes we lose the fact that, it's a job. You got to treat it like a real job. You know, you couldn't go get a job in a restaurant. You couldn't even work in a 7-Eleven and expect to do the hours that we do here, and you get fired in a week, you know? So that was the one thing, having the discipline to like stay focused. And though the numbers work out, if you're working, you still have to overcome that hurdle of being on the phone initially, getting good with a half-page phone script and going through all those rejections and no-shows, right? Like, and it's like anybody else. But then this is truly entrepreneurial because you actually, let's be transparent. You don't have to do anything. But if you want to be amongst the top producers, like you showed on the leaderboard, of people doing 10K a week, 20K a week, some people have been doing 30, 40, 50K a week, you know, for most of them, their success comes from, putting money up front, putting money into your business. And that is truly entrepreneurial because there's an upfront cost if you want to do multiple six figures. And that was really hard for me to wrap my head around because I came from a place that where they gave you leads. They give you a packet of leads. And it was like Mission Impossible. They put it in a manila envelope and said, take this mission. If you don't, it's going to self-destruct. And it didn't matter anyway because there were 3-year-old leads and they had coffee stains on them. So who the hell cares? Take it or leave it, And there was no other approach. Like they were like, at least some companies were like, go talk to your auntie. No, they didn't even they didn't even say that. They give you 30 leads in a packet and say, go to town. So we're like rationing them out, like they were pieces of bread. Like, oh, we get one per day. So like, I mean, we were desperate, man. We'd go. Obviously, we call them. Obviously, we just call them like there was no tomorrow. And they knew better after the first round, second round, 10th round, 15th round. You get these old leads. We did literally go post up at people's houses, sit outside with a pair of binoculars. Trey, it's your turn. I'm gonna take a nap. Okay, it's your turn, man. Wake up. Have some Cheetos. Wake up. Okay, my turn. Did they come home yet? And as soon as they came home, we'd spring on them like, hey, hold it right there. You filled out this form at Target. That was the lead. So, if anything, it was a breath of fresh air. But yeah, coming up with the money was hard, you know.
Yeah.
And then you're a new agent. Okay, so say you put your mind, your body, your fingers to work, and you start dialing. Now, let's say you book some appointments and you sell something, right? You've overcome the first plateau. You've actually profited. You've actually sold something. But then you've got to reflect and then take that money and throw it back in. And when do you get to the point where it's like, what's more important? My bills? Or I got to pay rent? What? I got to go to Starbucks. I got to, what I mean? Life happens. When do put it upon yourself to say, look, I got to double down right away, you know? So that's why these meetings are so valuable, to hear people's experience and like, how do you make that jump from doing 5 policies a month to 10 policies a month? How do you go from 10 policies a month to 10 policies a week? How do you actually do that? And it's a question of what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right?
Hmm.
Well, I'm gonna Mutual Miracle going to pay me. I got all these policies waiting to like they're stewing, right? Like I'm brewing, right? Like I'm a cup of tea right here. It's gonna pop out in the beginning of the month, so I'm just gonna sit tight, hold my ground. You know, so the people that
Yeah.
are the most successful are the ones that obviously can maintain a consistent, aggressive lead flow. But how do you get to that point? You know, you hear Stephen Yee say, "I took out a loan." That takes more
Mm.
audacity than most people are willing to muster. You know what I mean? But even for many of us, like myself, who made the money, I've got the money. I made the money. Am I willing to reinvest the money to get myself to where I need to be? Most people they hesitate, and that's why timing is everything. So we call it collapsing time frames. You want to be able to collapse time frames. You want to take a year to get to doing 20K a month, or do you want that kind of result within a month or two? 3 months. So you've got to have, crazy work ethic, right? But at the same time, you got to be shrewd enough. You're entrepreneurial, right? You got to throw some wood on that flame. You got to throw some wood on the fire. Get the thing, smoking.
Yeah.
So resources are key.
Well, and I love that you said that. You know, one of the things that I've always admired is your ability to keep this really simple, follow the fundamentals. And one thing that you talk about a lot is just schedule. Like, what is the schedule of a Hall of Fame producer? How much do you think they should expect to spend on leads? What are some things they can do to mitigate some of the downfalls, like, chargebacks, boredom, making much money and go to Cancun too soon, like
So
all
true.
that stuff.
So true. Well, I mean, the canned response would be know your why. And there's no doubt about that. You got to know your why. Is it something you desire, a different lifestyle? You know, I think most of us would say family, but there's some single girls and guys out there that just, they want a better lifestyle for themselves. You know, they want a serious career path that's going to bear fruit. Right. So I think the first thing is, I mean, as ridiculous as it sounds, you got to put yourself into a certain mind frame where it's like do or die. There can be no plan B. You talk about
Hmm.
driving and driving. Yeah, I literally drove 800 miles a week, every week for like 12 years, you know. And I don't tell too many people this, and I probably never said this on a conference call. I would drive like, okay, not even counting the whole day, getting no showed and driving around all day in it, like 5 hours away from home, but talk about the drive home. So it's like 8 o'clock if I did good. If I did bad, it's like 10, 11 o'clock. And now it's time to turn around and go home. Now it's turn around and turn around and drive home. So I would drive and I'd be driving over. I would be every time I stopped off at a Wendy's, tons of Wendy's. I was junior, right? Tons of that stuff. Every time I stop off at a 7-Eleven, I'd be thinking that could be me. I could be I used to work in the F&B industry for a long time, in a restaurant for a long time. I was like, that could be me again, working. Look at the guys that make minimum wage working at 7-Eleven. They got to be on their feet for 8 hours at a time. You know, and honestly, I mean, it is just you do what you do on the road. I mean, of course, I'm listening to podcasts trying to nourish my brain, but sometimes I'm not, I mean, believe it or not, as ridiculous as it sounded, off the walls is going to sound, I would honestly be thinking to myself, like, what if I was a convict? What if I was in the jail, separated from my family? Sometimes I felt like that, because I was so distant from my family for periods of time, long periods of time. I was like, what if I wasn't that fortunate? So you got to do something to psych yourself out. But the first things first. Come on, it's a job. You've got to give yourself inspiration. You've got to look at the pie at the sky. You've got to look around. That's why it's so important to go to convention. You've got to look around and see what is the scope of this opportunity. You know, what are these people doing as far as income wise? How much can I do? What could I do with that money to take care of my family, to build for the future? What can I do with all that? You know what I mean? Look down the path a little bit and give yourself some inspiration. But at the same time, for me, and everybody's personality is different. The pie in the sky is not enough for me. Sometimes I have to feel as if like this is it. There's no turning back. I got no job to go to. Nobody's giving me any job interview except Andrew Taylor
Right.
in a Miami Vice suit. No, I'm just kidding.
You're right.
You know, so if you put yourself in that mentality, you know, you know, maybe you're more apt to work. So what is the schedule like? Yeah, I mean, 8 hours a day. But the beautiful thing is, I mean, I'm transparent, my guys. You can do whatever you want. You can get on at 10 o'clock. Nobody's going to hold you to it. You can get on. You can take a 2 hour break at noon. You can watch a movie if you want. I mean, if you got to be disciplined. But let's be real. You don't have to be there 14 hours a day. Let's be real. But did you actually work for 8 hours? Probably not. Most people probably not.
That's right.
Probably not. You thought you did. So we were just at a meeting with Dom, right? And they talked about tracking your schedule. You know, micromanage, not to micromanage, but do it for yourself maybe. Do it for a week. It's not going to kill you. You know, count the number of dials times three because you call everybody 3 times. Track them. How many physical dials did you actually make today? You clock in and clock out yourself. I started at 8. I took a break at 10. I got back on at 11, and I went all the way to 2. And in that period of time, I called everybody 3 times in a row, so I made XYZ number of dials. How many people picked up the phone? How many people did I book an appointment with? How many people did I sit with? If you keep track of those metrics, even just for a few weeks, I think most new people would be amazed at the activity level. You'd be amazed how much you did not do, but you felt like you did a lot. Oh, it was a hard. Oh my God, Trey, it was such a hard day. Oh my God, you don't understand. And you look at the numbers, like, nah, I really didn't call that much. I mean, think about it.
Right.
There's 60 minutes in an hour, and if you're sitting behind the phone for 60 minutes and you call one guy 3 times in a row and nobody picks up, that might take you 25, 30 seconds. Might, if you don't stop and look at Facebook or something, Instagram. You know what I mean? They do 60
Yeah.
times an hour. In 3 hours, that's already like almost $200. 200 clients. 200 clients, not dials. Times three, that's like 600 dials in 3 hours. You could do that.
Right.
And you could also streamline the thing and get a dialing platform. You know,
Right.
all right? We use multi dollars now, power dollars. Within compliancy, you can. That's another thing you can do is streamline your business. But yeah, I'm on at 7 a.m. every day. Talking to clients, and I take a break at lunchtime if I can. But I'm trying to get as many appointments as possible. You know.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, the no plan B thing, that definitely is the truth. I mean, too many people give up because they think it's easier. And if you really actually worked 8 hours a day, yeah, that was you probably remember this meeting, Jack. Sean came to town. I think we were in Riverside, and I was working for Andrew, and he said, Trey, you recruit a lot of people. When people when people ask how many appointments they should run a week, what do you tell them? And I said, I tell them. He said, how many days you tell them they need to be in the field? I said, 2, because that's all. Because Andrew can hit
He
Hall of
got
Fame
mad
up
at
at
you.
2, and he's like, 2, what's wrong with you? They don't have any money. It's 7 days. And and I thought, okay. And he goes, where? And then he like went off of me. And then he goes, what are you going to tell them from now on? And I go, I'm not going to tell them 2. I'm going to tell them as much as it takes because they don't have any money. And then he went further, and because I said, well, what do I track? Because I'm an agent. And I was like, is it the amount of appointments? Is it a certain amount a week? Is it that I need to sell? Is it what is it? And he goes, you just need to work 40 hours a week. That'll if you actually work 40 hours a week on this business, talking to people about insurance and setting appointments to talk to people about insurance, it has to work out. I mean, they are leads. They do want to talk to you about it. But I've been in that situation too, where I feel like I worked an 8 hour day and I talked to like 6 people. You know what I mean? So that
Dude,
accountability, if everybody can take away from that, holding yourself accountable to what it actually looks like to work an 8 hour day. If you do that 5 days a week, it's almost impossible for it not to work. Um, what about the amount that you spend in expectations of profitability as you get good at it? And I know you got appointments, so I think we'll end with that.
you know, I don't even know if we're allowed to say exact numbers anymore. Forgive me, but back in, okay, back in the day, it was like you got to spend $1,000 a week, right? Everybody got to spend $1,000 a week. But I think the crux of the conversation is even more so is knowing when to double down. Because
Yeah,
what comes first, the horse or the cart, right? As soon as an agent, meaning many agents I talk to are doing 5K a month, 10K a month, 12K a month, 15K a month, but they aspire to do more and they're surrounded by people that are doing 30, 40 a month. Right? As soon as at the moment that you can recognize profit, right? You might have only sold 2 or 3 policies, that week, but if you spent $1,000 and you made 2 or 3, I mean, just look at your profit margin. It's like 200%. And the turnaround time is less than a week, call it days. So that's
yeah,
the entrepreneurial spirit. You got to be thinking, look, I put money in and I was able to accomplish within 5 to 7 days money out at a 200% growth rate or 300% growth rate. If you're experiencing that, somebody's got to have a talk with you and you need to double down quick. You know, that's the biggest thing I tell people. Because for me, even though 3,000 bucks off 1,000 is not going to pay my bills for the month, right? But I have a working model. Once you recognize I have a working business model, this shit works. I put money in and I double triple my money, and the turnaround time was like 3 days. As soon as you recognize that, it's time to double triple down. And if you double triple down there, all the other economies of scale will come to your benefit. Meaning, like, I went from having 10 appointments to 30. Yeah, because I tripled my spend.
right.
You know, and of course, you have to do it at the pace. So that's where you draw the line again between like what do I have available. Some people, they're not comfortable until they pay off their car, they pay off their rent, they pay off their this, they take the kids to there. They're not comfortable to do that. But for me, I was like, dude, I can see the path already. And I see, oh, Trey's already doing 30,000 a month. I see what he's spending. I'm spending half that. But you know what? So if Trey can do that and spend that much, I I need I'm brand new. I don't know anything, but I did profit that first month. I spent 4 and I did 12. If I want to catapult myself into 30, I'm gonna double down quick. Bam. I'm gonna have so many
Yeah,
leads. And in my entire career, there's only 2 times I can count. 2 times. I'm talking out selling like every day, all the time for years. I love it, and that's another subject. But there's only ever been 2 times I had too many leads. Only twice. Too many.
yeah,
That was when we took on Chicago. We're like, yo, we gotta go to Chicago. We took on leads. We're paying $70 a lead. I got like 100 leads a week, and we didn't look at the CRM for like a month. And we turned around like, holy shit, there's like 750 leads here. Somebody jump on a plane quick.
yeah.
There's only ever been twice that we had too many leads. And that was one of them.
Well, I love that. And so that concept, and I know you got to go, but that concept you just talked about, the first time I ever really got that, I remember I was sitting in the office with Andrew, and he had you on speakerphone. I don't know if you knew I was listening, and you were talking about this idea of passing the monkey. And what that was like, you get to the point where if you have X amount of leads, you're going to make the sales. Now it's just a matter of how many more leads can I get? Because it's not a question of what it doesn't really matter where they come from. It don't matter how old they are. Yeah. And that was the most freeing thing because then I realized like then it becomes predictable. And that's why you've continued to kill it. In-home, telesales, vet leads, final expense, social media mortgage, call-in mortgage, whatever you've done, even on the phone, you've been able to do a phenomenal job. So I want to respect your time because I know you have one coming up. Um, but we'll have to do a round 2 of this, and hopefully everybody got a lot out of this. It was recorded. We will put it up on YouTube as well. Is there anything else you want to say before you get off, Jack?
No, I just want to say thank you to you and the team for having me. Yeah, everybody's got to go to convention. That's another thing. I mean, because it's not real till you get there and see it for yourself. And there's I don't know how many years I was like, yeah, go, gotta go, but I get there and turn around and come out, and it's like, if you can work the thing, you'll have the enthusiasm and the stamina to keep going harder.
And I'll tell you this, I think you might have been the first person to say this that I heard is if you don't go to convention, you won't be here next year. And that's the truth. Like you need it. You may not think you need it, but you need it. Even if you're killing it right now. I know people that were killing it 2 years ago and then go to convention and they ain't here now. And sometimes the meeting needs you and sometimes you need the meeting. But the most eye-opening thing for me ever in this business was when I went to the very first one and there were 100 people getting recognized that issued over 100,000, and it blew my mind because there was only like 150 people there. And last year we had 1,000 people issue over $200,000 in premium at FFL, and that was the second year in a row like that. And it just keeps getting bigger and better. And obviously somebody's figured something out. So convention is key. You have to get there. You don't have an excuse. Whatever you got to do, let's figure it out. You can make some sales between now and then, talk about it, ask for help, whatever we got to do. But thanks for jumping on, Jack. We appreciate you. And if, like Jack said, register for convention if you haven't done it. And we will see you guys again next week. Sean Mike is our guest next week. Frank's going to interview him. Um, Obviously, get on the rest of the calls this week, Simple Retirement Solutions and all that stuff. But next week will be officially the January kickoff. Sean Mike is our guest, and we look forward to seeing you guys on here. So thanks for jumping on. You guys make it a great week.
Thanks, everyone.